Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Beyond the Game podcast. I'm your host for today, Owen Reynolds, joined alongside my partners, Noah Petrous and Ty Ryan. Today, we're going to be talking all Detroit sports. First up with the Pistons in their series victory against the Magic. And then we're going to switch gears over to the Tigers in the recent news on Tarek Skubal. Let's first begin with the Pistons as they came back from down 3-1 and won the first ever Game 7 hosted in Detroit. It definitely looked sloppy at times, but they did get it done. Next up, they're going to be playing the Cavaliers in round two. Guys, what were your takeaways in this first series for the Pistons against the Magic?
What's up, Owen? The Pistons had like more of a series than any of us expected, but they got the series win in Game 7 versus Orlando. At times in that series, it look like Orlando had that series locked up when they took a commanding 3-1 lead, but then tragedy struck for them as Franz Wagner got injured and was ruled out for the remainder of that series, which turned out to be the rest of the year here for Orlando. Another thing is that it looks like at times in the series it was Cade, Paolo, Tobias, and just a bunch of randoms on the court. So I feel like the Pistons needed to rely high on more men like Duran and Duncan and in order to beat Cleveland. I think what happened is that the Pistons sort of had like too much rest going from Sunday to Sunday, where Orlando they were in the play in, and so they went Sunday, Wednesday, Friday, Sunday. So they were more like ready to play. And then once the Pistons like sort of got their playing time back in the final 3 games or 12 quarters. I feel like they were better in 11 of those quarters, with the lone exception being that second quarter in Game 6, where they proved even when down by 24 at halftime in an elimination game, they can come back and win.
Ty.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, it was definitely sloppy, and they're definitely going to need to clean it up to beat the Cavs. And a lot of times, like Noah said, it was the Cade Cunningham show. Like, Cade played outstanding uh this series and didn't really have too much help on everybody else. And they're definitely going to need that against James Harden and Donovan Mitchell.
Yeah, for sure. I love, Noah, how you talked about Franz Wagner because that injury most definitely changed the momentum of the series. Without that injury, who knows what could have happened? And also, Ty, like you said, with Cade Cunningham, he really, besides Tobias Harris in that game 7, didn't really have a second guy to help him out much. And we could see that in the beginning of the series when he was averaging like 7 turnovers in the first 3 games. It's like the Pistons, they didn't address it at the trade deadline and getting a second score, and now they rolled the dice. So far, it got them out of the first round, but it's going to be very interesting to see if they're going to have enough scoring to keep up with James Harden and Donovan Mitchell in this series against the Cavaliers. All right, guys, what do you think Jalen Duran is going to have to do for you if you were going to give him the supermax contract that he wants?
I feel like he has to like be better on the rebounding. And Orlando was able to get a lot of offensive rebounds against us, which caused them to score a lot like of second chance points. So Duran doesn't really have to be as much of a scorer as much as like a defender and a rebounder, and then he can let Cade do the scoring.
Yeah, Ty, anything to add on to that?
Yeah, I think Duran just has to show that he can be the physical player that everybody knows he can be. He just really needs to show out with his rebounding, and I think that will prove that he gets the supermax.
Yeah, most definitely. He's going to have a tough task ahead of him with Evan Mobley and Jared Allen. I feel like at some times during that series, especially in the earlier games, he was even getting outdueled by Wendell Carter, which is not a great showing for him. But near the end, towards game 7, he started getting his groove. He had a double double in that game 7. So I'm very intrigued to see if he will win this matchup against Jared Allen. So I know we just talked about it a little bit, but who do you think can be that second scorer for Cade in this series against the Cavaliers?
I feel like the Pistons are gonna rely on Tobias Harris again. And last year when they played New York, he was extremely good. He played really good in the first round against Orlando. So I feel like we just need to keep it with him right now.
Ty?
Yeah, I think it's going to be Tobias Harris. Uh, he's shown that he can be good, and they just need to him and rely on rely on him and Cade.
Yeah, for sure. I think the main guy is going to be Tobias Harris, like you guys talked about. I also would like to see JB Bickerstaff rotate in a couple more guys like Paul Reed, maybe give Ron Holland some looks. He's good on defense too. Maybe he can cause some trouble for Mitchell and Harden because let's be honest, Asar Thompson is really the only great defender that can guard guards that the Pistons have on their team. So it's going to be interesting. I'd like to see JB reach in and play a couple more guys throughout this series. So, talking JB, how do you think this storyline is going to play out? And how much do you think this really means to him playing against the team that fired him last season?
I mean, I think this is his chance to prove like he shouldn't have been fired. Cleveland was a team that was going towards the right direction, but they felt like they could win more without him, so he gets fired. And even though he did rebound on Detroit in his first year, Cleveland did get the 1 seed, so people felt like at the time it was the right move for Cleveland to fire him. But now how he's rebuilt Detroit into a 1 seed, Cleveland's taken like a step back a little bit as a 4 seed. So this is going to be his chance right now to prove if he should have been fired or not.
Ty?
Yeah, I completely agree with Noah. This is just going to be his opportunity to show that he didn't deserve to be fired and that he can be an elite coach.
Yeah, and I feel like he has the chance to prove it because with the Pistons, they're a little bit more of an inexperienced team than the Cavaliers with guys like Donovan Mitchell and James Harden. So it truly is up to JB Bickerstaff and the coaches to show that they have prepared their guys for this playoff run. And if he could get a win against Cleveland, I'm sure that would fire him up even more for the rest of the playoffs. So, what do you guys think is going to be the outcome of this series against the Cavaliers?
My prediction for this series is that the Pistons are going to win in 7. I was at Game 7 on Sunday, and it was almost impossible for Orlando to even move the ball at times. So all the Pistons have to do is defend home court now, and it does seem like, other than Game 1 of the Orlando series, they handled it well. So I have the Pistons in 7, winning all 4 home games.
Ty?
Yeah, I have the Pistons in 6. Uh, they just really need to win at home, and if they can win away, then that would be just perfect, and they'd be in a great spot.
Yeah, I was also at Game 7, Noah, and it was very loud in there. You could tell that the fans were active. I just don't really believe that with Tobias Harris as your second scoring option, that you're going to be able to beat a team with Donovan Mitchell and James Harden and a team that is as good as Cleveland. I think it's going to go deep. I think it's going to be Cleveland in 7, probably. I feel like Cade might just run out of gas. I feel like they should have done maybe more at the trade deadline, but it's going to be interesting to see how this one plays out. Obviously, my heart wants the Pistons to win in 6 or in 4 games. I want to sweep, but I just can't believe with what they got that they can get it done. All right, let's shift it now to the Tigers and this Scooble news, what this will mean for them. The day before we are filming this video, the news came out that Scooble will be undergoing surgery to remove loose bodies in his throwing elbow. The normal recovery time for this injury is about 3 to 4 months, with the best case scenario being 2 months. The Tigers are currently 18-18, tied at the top of the AL Central with the Guardians. So, Ty, what do you think the most major impact of this injury for the Tigers will be?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the pitching is going to be the biggest hit as you're getting rid of the best pitcher in the league. He's going to be out for 3 months. And I really think this just means that the hitting is going to really need to step up, and they're definitely going to have to win high-scoring games because they won't be able to hold the teams down with their pitching without Scooble.
Noah?
I mean, the Tigers, they're not in like a good spot right now, but they do play in probably an easier division, and their schedule is gonna be easier now. Scooble's gonna be out until at least the All-Star break. But they still have a good pitcher in Valdez. They have Kyle Finnegan, who's a good relief pitcher, and they still have guys that hit the ball. I think like Green, Carpenter, Dingler, and McGonigal. So they have scored a lot of runs in games, so I expect them to still compete well in the Central.
Yeah, I love what Ty talked about with the arms, especially with how thin the group has really gotten with other injuries. To talk about Justin Verlander, I mean, he's older, you can expect it, but they're really having to turn to guys with less experience, and they're going to need guys to step up and fill in the shoes of Scooble, which is a very hard task to do. But like you said, Noah, they've been hot with the bats. Torque is on a home run tear right now. And it's going to be very interesting to see if they can outscore teams. They haven't had to do that in a while with how great the pitching has been. So, last for the day, do you guys still think the Tigers can compete in the AL Central and still be close, if not in the running, to win the AL Central by the time Scooble returns?
I do think that they could still compete in it just because their team is more than Scooble. They won playoff games last year against Seattle. Um, and even in games that Scooble's pitched, their offense hasn't produced as much, and they have won games a lot without Scooble. So I feel like they will be in contention still when he returns.
Ty?
Yeah, like Noah said, their whole team isn't Scooble. They can be a perfectly good uh, baseball team without Scooble. He just really propelled them to that next level, and I do think that they will still be able to compete in the AL Central.
Yeah, with how bad the AL Central is right now and the fact that they're tied for first at a 500 record gives me some confidence that they will still be able to compete in the AL. The AL in general is just down this year. So I think by the time Scooble comes back, the best case scenario is you're within 5 games of first place and you can still make a push after the All Star break for that first spot in the AL Central. So, any last comments? All good. Thank you guys for listening to another episode of the Beyond the Game podcast brought to you by Shamrock Media Network. We will catch you all on the next one.